everybody. Welcome to the Technical Analysis webinar here with AvaTrade. My name is Troy. I'll be presenting. As always, keep in mind that no one trade is guaranteed to profit. So you want to manage risk in a way that makes sense from a risk management perspective. And we'll go over some ideas in that regard as we go through maybe some simulated trade ideas on the platform. And what you'll notice is we have some nice tools built into our order window that can assist with the risk management side of things as well. And also keep in mind as we go over the various topics that it's coming from an educational perspective and not meant to be financial advisement. Now, from our main website, we can log into our WebTrader platform, which allows you to trade on all MT4 and MT5 accounts from one location. Also, our mobile app is the same and features the same trading tools as well. So if you go under our different trading platforms here, our mobile app can be found on the main website with links to the major app stores, or you can just find it in your app store if you search for AvaTrade app. And it has the signals, it has the market news, all the same features that we utilize in the WebTrader free of charge. Now, if we log in from the main website, as I said, we'll be in the WebTrader platform. Now, I know today's a technical analysis webinar, but it makes sense to pay attention a little bit to the fundamentals first, to get a feel maybe for which way the wind might be blowing, so to speak, with different instruments before you go into the technical analysis. Maybe you have kind of a preferred direction that you think you'd rather trade based on the fundamental news, and then you kind of zero in on entry points and exit points with your technical analysis. Some traders are purely technical traders, and you can jump right into your technical analysis if that's the case. But I like to kind of take a look at the fundamentals as well, just a bit, even in the technical analysis webinar. And what I'll do is I can just kind of breeze through what I've seen today. One would be that out of the European Union, there were a number of announcements that came in better than expected in general, more positive news than negative, showing pretty good demand in the economy. The CPI data was a bit higher than expected, and I think inflation's down near the target, so I don't think there's concern about overly high inflation anymore in the European Union. So those numbers coming in a little higher than expected, maybe it was positive news for the Eurozone, economically speaking. And we did see, I think, a bullish response with the euro today. We'll take a look maybe at a pairing or two with the euro. I think we'll see that it's had a pretty good run today. And if there are any pullbacks, maybe trading with the euro could make sense based on that fundamental news. But that's only if you like the technicals as well, as we look at the technical entry points and how it sets up from an opportunistic standpoint. And maybe we'll look at the technical signals as well with the euro USD or euro GBP to see what do the technical signals tell us from Trading Central. And if everything's in alignment, then maybe you make a move or two involving the euro and some other currency pairings along with it. Now, what else did I see today? The advanced data payroll out of the US, and all of this can be found on our economic calendar, by the way, which is found right here under the discovery section, economic calendar. And if you click on that, it'll bring up the calendar. And we go over in depth how to use that economic calendar with the advanced tools that are on it in the fundamental analysis webinar like we'll have tomorrow. Now, tomorrow we'll have a bit more focus on the US elections. So I invite you to attend that with the elections coming up next week. We'll focus quite a bit on the US elections and how that could affect movements in tomorrow's fundamental analysis session. But we'll look at some other things as well. So that's kind of where we sit today. A bit of good news economically out of the European Union. The jobs numbers on the advanced data payroll out of the US also came in better than expected. But in general, I think the euro is kind of more of the story today with those economic announcements, with a large number of announcements being pretty strong out of the European Union. And then this coming Friday, day after tomorrow, we have the non-farm payroll numbers coming out of the US, which has a slew of data with it that is really looked at closely each month. It's typically the first Friday of every month when that data comes out. So we'll be looking at non-farm payrolls. unemployment numbers and earnings numbers in terms of wage growth in the U.S. on Friday. And so there's some nervousness coming into that out of the U.S., which might make the U.S. dollar a little less bullish compared to the euro today until that data comes in on Friday to see how good or how bad it might be. Okay, so with that as a backdrop, understanding big announcements on Friday out of the U.S., strong announcements today out of the European Union, and elections coming next Tuesday. Quite a bit of fundamental news to shake the markets a bit, but it seems more positive sentiment than negative so far today. Now, if we take a look at the technicals then, we mentioned the European announcement, so maybe we look at the Euro USD and see what's happening there. One thing I can tell you is, here's a pop-up for our webinar tomorrow, talking about the US elections. That's what I was already alluding to. And no, that's not a picture of me. Okay, so we're looking at Euro USD here, and there is a signal, so we can take a look at the technical signal. It's a buy signal. It doesn't surprise me, and it looks like it already reached the first take profit level that was suggested. So we see the buy signal came in with a pivot level down here, meaning as long as it stayed above the pivot level, which we see it indicated as the orange line, then it was a buy signal today. And so as this climbed up, it reached the first suggested take profit zone not that long ago and pushed back down a bit. It has not really gotten all the way into this take profit zone, which are resistance levels that are found further back on the chart in this direction. And that's why they say if it's going to slow down, it might be near this first line, and if it breaks through, maybe it makes it to the second line. So that was a really accurate signal here, both direction-wise, and the exact spot where it fizzled out was right where the first resistance level was expected maybe to slow this movement down, and that's where you could have had your take profit program. So pretty solid signal. Why was it so solid and accurate? Well, it was in line with the fundamental news, along with the technical analysis that showed a nice support level right here. Okay, why was this a support level? Because the price kept hitting and bouncing back up. It hit again here, bounced back up. So the signal comes in, buy from the support level as long as it doesn't break below it, and up it went. And the fundamental news helped it continue on its way. Had that fundamental news came out the opposite and showed bad news for the European Union, then it would have broke the support level and the signal would say then sell. That's the way this is set up. If the movement was to break to the other side of the pivot line, the support level, then the signal says you do the sell scenario at that point. So the way to use these signals many times would be to go with the original recommendation if you think it fits the fundamental news as well, with a market move, and have a pending order with your stop loss below this pivot line to cut off the original market move if it reverses, and then maybe have a pending order to go the opposite direction if that were to happen. Okay, but sometimes you just trade in the direction that you think the signal says to trade, if indeed you feel the fundamental news is going to help push it that way. Okay, and that's many times the way I look at the signals. I don't follow them blindly. I qualify the technical signals as to whether they fit the current fundamental news right now. And you know, that data came in hours and hours and hours ago, earlier today. And so you easily could have went with that fundamental news and this signal and been in the money quite easily. Okay, combining the strategy that we're talking about of looking at the fundamentals and then looking at the technicals, maybe the signals that are offered on our platform, and seeing if the technical setup matches what you feel the fundamental movement should be. Okay, so let's maybe take a look at what could you do now. Okay, it's all well and good. It was a good signal. Had you looked at it earlier, you might have already profited. But for those of you that are just now looking at it for the first time, is it too late to trade? Should you pass on this opportunity? That's what you'd be thinking right now. What I see is if I want to draw a line, is a resistance level right here that has been there for some time. These are 4-hour candles, so we're going into last week, okay? Resistance and down, resistance, it tested it for a while and dropped again. So this, getting close to this resistance, is reacting the same way and dropping. So would I buy from this point? Probably not, even though the fundamental news is telling me that this might still challenge that resistance level some more. Because there's so much more data to come out Friday on the USD, maybe investors, the market is hesitant to go with the euro against the USD so much that you start breaking above resistance levels. So the unknown, maybe all of those US announcements still to come at the end of this week, might be preventing the euro from breaking past this resistance level right now. So combining the fact that there's big news to come out of the US still on Friday, less than 48 hours from now, that, and combined with the fact that this already reached the take profit line within the technical signal and it's at the resistance, from a technical perspective, it's a bad entry point. From a fundamental news perspective, if it pulls back a bit further, maybe I still would go with the euro here, okay, if I get a better entry point. Now, you might like the current entry point, and you could, by all means, go with the move right now if you wanted. Some might look at this and say, I'll sell, because here's the resistance. I can put my stop loss just above the resistance and sell on this with a take profit down towards the support level here. Okay, and if any fear hits the market and the USD starts to strengthen, this could easily pull back down. So I almost feel from a purely technical trading standpoint, this is a great sell. Close to the resistance that's been confirmed multiple times to hold. Short risk, smaller risk to get your stop loss above the resistance, larger potential profit without having to break any support levels down here. So from a technical perspective, this looks like a nice sell opportunity. The problem I have with that is the fundamentals say to buy, which is exactly why it went flying up like it did. So I would have preferred to have bought earlier today with the fundamentals and the technicals, rather than sell with only the technicals in my favor, but going against the fundamental momentum right now. Okay, so this is one I would probably pass on, because the fundamentals are not with me to sell. And the buy signal already carried itself out to the take profit level, pretty much right at the resistance level. Okay, so if you were going to sell on this, let's say, maybe you're a technical trader and you don't care what the fundamentals show right now. Maybe you think that the fundamentals flip back and forth, and right now maybe the momentum's about to flip the other way. If you were going to sell, the reason I'm going to walk this through as a sell is just to break down from a technical standpoint, if you were going to take this advantageous entry point to sell from just below this resistance, how the order window can help you with your risk management. Okay, so let's say I put this as a one lot trade, and my stop loss I'm going to put above the resistance right here. This clears all of the resistance here that the movements had trouble breaking through. So I'll go over here and say 108.78 or 79 gets my stop loss above the resistance level. So 108.79. And my take profit could be down here. Let me just pull one of these lines down. Just at the point where it bounced today. So it doesn't even have to break below today's low, nowhere near going below the low down here. Being, not too greedy with the take profit, just to the bottom of this one candle on the 4-hour candles to 108.10. So being conservative with my take profit, not trying to go a huge distance. And you see it's better than 4 to 1, or I'm sorry, better than 3 to 1. Or no, I'm sorry, I'll take that back again. Better than 2 to 1 ratio, not quite 3 to 1 potential profit compared to risk. Okay, less than 400, or I'm sorry, greater than 500 possible profit, less than 200 possible loss with this move. Okay, so better than 2-to-1 ratio for possible profit to loss with the setup that I have here. Okay, now I just need to adjust the trade size to be the amount of risk that I'm comfortable with. If I want to risk 500 per trade, I'm pretty close to my trade size. If I want to risk, I don't know, a certain percent of my balance, which would be, 1% would be about 586. That's 1% of the balance I have on this account. So if that's the case, I want to risk 1%, and you can risk whatever percentage you want. 1% is an example. Then very easily I can just adjust my trade size, 1.2, lot size, 1.15, until I get to that 586 or so that I wanted to risk. There's 591. So it's almost exactly 1% of my balance. And so I can zero in on that, and you see it's doing the risk management for me. I'm risking less than 200 to make almost 600 in profit. And so I'm looking for a 1% gain. And I'm sorry, it's not a 1% risk. I'm going after a 1% gain here. If I'm comfortable with a 1% risk, then I can go even larger with my trade size. If I do 3 lots, now I'm risking just under 1%, because 1%, remember, is about 586 on my account. If I do 3.3, I'm risking just almost exactly 1% at 3.3. So 3.28. And there I am, right in line with 1% risk down here. Now I have approximately 2 to 3% possible profit. Okay, and it's actually, the ratio improved to better than 3-to-1 now, or about 3-to-1, because the movement went our way while setting this up. Okay, so in a sell position here, if I'm right 1 out of 3 times, I'm about breaking even. And if I can be right better than that 33%, then I'll be an overall profit with like 40% accuracy. With this type of setup, I would be profiting overall. So if I did 10 trades and won 4 times and lost 6 times with this kind of setup, I make an overall profit. Okay, so the risk management is set up here for you, and then you can get going with your live move if it makes sense to you. Now, I simulated a trade that from a technical standpoint feels very good to me. The stop loss is just above the resistance. Short distance to my stop loss, much better potential profit, 2.5, 3-to-1 almost potential profit compared to risk. And I've got my take profit before the bottom of this candle, so I don't have to break that support level down there to reach the take profit. My only caution on a move like this is it's purely technical. The fundamentals are almost working against this move, but the technicals are set up really nice. And sometimes if the technicals are nice enough, even if the fundamentals aren't with you, maybe you choose to go in that direction. I'm actually going in the opposite direction of the signal, because the signal already hit the take profit. Okay, and I do see a nice resistance level. So I did a purely technical move here. Again, it's not my inclination to do a pure technical move, but that's an example of one that could make sense given the current environment of elections coming up, big announcements coming up, quite a bit of volatility is out there. So certainly after a run up, perhaps it's due for a pullback, just in a general sense as well. Okay, if there are any questions, please let me know. And as I see them pop up, I'll address them. And we can take a look maybe at some other instruments also. Like I said, there was news out of the US as well, so we could look at a US instrument, maybe equity related. So we could look at the US 500 and see, first of all, is there a signal on that? I'm guessing this could be a buy signal. I don't know. I haven't looked. It is. This actually dipped down and hit the support level here, the pivot level, which is why it said it already reached a key level. The key level that it reached was not the take profit. It reached the pivot level and then bounced. So that pivot level was well placed because it did not break it, at least not by much, and it bounced right off that support level. So this is how a support level should act. If it's a true support level, when it touches it, it bounces. And that's exactly what happened. So this support level was confirmed just a few candles back. Okay, so This is a live signal. It's a buy signal. It's in the direction of the fundamental sentiment so far today. And maybe this is a better look than that Euro USD if you're looking to go with the signal. Okay. These are 4-hour candles. I can take a look and try and draw my own support and resistance levels. I see resistance here. This is where it hit and dropped most recently. And if this was going to go up, that's the first level of resistance it might find is at 58.92. The next level I see is up at this next candle, which is at 5,900. Okay, now what we see here is between 5,900 and 5,927. So the take profit zone that the signal is showing you is ignoring this first resistance and starting the take profit at the second one and up to the next resistance up here, which they're looking at 59.27, which is a more significant resistance up here near the all-time highs. And that's exactly where it put this upper resistance is at this all-time high up in this direction here. Okay, 59.27. So when you look at the technical signals, you can start to draw your own lines based on where you see the prices hit and pulled back from. And you can see why 5,900 is a suggested take profit. It's right here, and it's this level of resistance here and here. So there were 2 points of contact recently where it hit this price level and dropped back down. So they're saying if this does reach 5,900, there's some significant resistance here, and you might look to take profit, and that's this line here, 5,900. And then the next level, they're saying 59.27, that's the all-time high right here. So that's the more lenient take profit. If it breaks through 5,900, they're saying you might look to take profit before it reaches 59.27, because then it certainly might find resistance at the all-time high up there. Okay, so you start to analyze from a technical analysis perspective these signals, and in the signal you can't see why are these lines drawn where they are for take profit suggestions. As you look at the chart, you can really see why this is the upper edge of the take profit zone in the signal. It's because certainly there might be resistance here, and the movement might have trouble breaking above that all-time high, at least temporarily anyways. Usually when you reach a level like this, you'd see at least a temporary pullback before it challenges to try and break. Not always, but it's kind of in a general sense, these price levels like this tend to act as at least temporary resistance, if not more sustained. Okay, so the question is, currently, do you feel like the technical trend still says buy? Even though the technical signal says buy, and the fundamental news pretty much so far today has kind of created positive momentum here. What does the current movement look like before deciding to buy or sell on this? And what I mean is, let's break this down to smaller candles and see, instead of 4-hour candles, let's go to 15-minute. We certainly see the uptrend. Okay, very strong pull down at the market open today, very strong move back up, bouncing, and then a bit of a pullback when it reached this level of resistance. Okay, this is a smaller level of resistance on the 15-minute candles that we didn't draw when we were looking at 4-hour candles. Okay, so what I see here is maybe the momentum has slowed down on this signal. It got close, okay? It bounced off this support level down here, and it tried to get to this level, but it's reacting to the lower, smaller level of resistance on the smaller candles right here. We can see that. It's really bouncing down on the smaller candles without breaking this resistance level. So there are a couple things you could do here. You could sell. From a technical standpoint, it's not much risk to put your stop loss above this resistance, small risk, larger potential profit. If you say, if this retraces back to where it was just a few hours ago, my potential profit is about triple what I'd have to risk to get my stop loss up here. Okay, so from a technical perspective, this is a nice sell. Exactly like the example we looked at on the last instrument that we looked at, the Euro USD, where we went the opposite direction of the signal because the signal had kind of fizzled out. And in the case of the Euro USD, already hit the first take profit. This one didn't quite reach the take profit, but it's acting similar to the Euro USD. Like, wow, it would have been nice to get on this signal back here and be way in profit already. It doesn't always, even if the signal goes in the right direction, it doesn't always reach all the way to the take profit zone. Sometimes it dies before that. Okay, so from a technical perspective, this looks like an uptrend that ran down of energy and that you could sell on with small risk, with your stop loss up here, and much larger potential profit. And again, that type of setup, if you write even 1 out of 3 times, approximately, depending on the exact numbers, you're at break even with only 33% accuracy. And if you're winning, 40%, 45% or better, then you're profiting pretty nicely with this type of setup. Okay, so technically, this looks like a nice sell for a short-term move that could come to fruition really in an hour or two, one way or the other, right? Now, for a little bit more patient move, but still from a technical perspective, you could say, all right, if it breaks this resistance in the signal, that's this here, you could have a pending order up here, the same spot that you have your stop loss when you're selling. You could have a pending order above the resistance to buy. And if it has enough momentum to go up, hit the stop loss on your sell, then it would trigger a buy here to go in the direction of the technical signal towards this take profit zone up here. Okay, and maybe at that point, if it breaks this resistance, maybe then you're looking for that higher take profit at the all-time high type area. Okay, so this could be a 1-2 move where you go with the technical opportunistic entry point to sell for the purely technical move and back that up with a pending order to buy if it does reverse and hit your stop loss on the sell. That's in the direction more of the fundamental setup that triggered this initial signal in the first place. Okay, and I won't walk through setting this one up because we set the last one up. It works the same way. If I'm selling on this, I can put my take profit down here, 58.50 maybe. I can put my stop loss right up here, 58.88. It'll show me the ratio of what my risk and potential profit is. I can do that. Won't take long. 58.49 stop loss. I'm sorry. That's where I wanted my take profit. Stop loss is 58.88. Take profit 58.49 or 58.50. Okay. Potential profit 4,237. Possible loss 1,462. So again, like a 3-to-1 ratio, something near there. Potential profit to risk. Now I just need to adjust my trade size to be the amount of risk I'm comfortable with that setup. So you see, I do the technical setup first, then I adjust the trade size for that trade setup. And so it looks like I could do 0.65 or something like that and be around 1% risk on my balance. Okay, so again, that's a technical trade because it's not necessarily in the direction of all of that fundamental news that came in today. In the bigger picture, it kind of is backed by fundamental news because there's a lot of volatility around the upcoming US elections and the big announcements on Friday with a lot of uncertainty. So at some point, the euro is going to run out of momentum against the USD because traders are saying, well, we're not sure what might happen on Friday with the USD. So eventually, traders are not willing to keep buying on the euro in that situation, maybe. But definitely from a technical perspective, even if the fundamentals are unsure, this is a nice technical setup with a very short risk to the stop loss and a much better potential profit to your take profit with a nice resistance level backing up this move that's been tested a few times and held. Okay, just some examples of where the technical signals maybe already carried out and went with the fundamental news of the day, but eventually that news, the excitement of the fundamental news that came in earlier in the day kind of wears off by the end of the day, and those signals become maybe less relevant if they came in earlier in the day. And then you got to kind of look and see on your own with your own technical analysis, is it possible still to go with that signal or is it time to go against it? Based on what is the current fundamental news situation as well, along with the technicals, okay? And if you want to go analyze your open trades, you just simply click on the suitcase symbol here, and here are the open trades. And right now, I think we caught the pullback from kind of the slowdown of that upward momentum. We caught it at a pretty good time. And for scalpers, you could already close these trades and take a quick profit. That's the advantage of finding advantageous entry points with your support and resistance levels, because you can get quick profits with scalping type trades. Even if this is eventually going to continue upward, these trades that were sold on, because they had reached nice resistance levels and the momentum had kind of died off, it's a good spot from just below those resistance levels, sometimes just to catch a short pullback, even if you don't think it will be sustained. And that's up to the style of trader. Do you want to close these off when they're up 50 and get in and out? Or am I waiting for hundreds of profit in the case of the trade sizes I used here before it would hit the take profit that we programmed? And that's up to each trader. And you can do partial closes as well. If you wanted to understand how to do a partial close, it's pretty simple. Okay, I can go here and say, oh, I'm up about 100 on this one, and it could change quick. So I could go here and modify. I can click, rather than modify, let's go here. And I can click close position, okay? And I'm up $178, so I can say, you know what, I don't want to close the whole thing. I'm gonna close half of it. So 0.32, I wanna close out of 0.65, close. Okay, I just pocketed about 80 something, half of what was open. I closed, so that amount of the profit went into my balance, and the rest of the trade is open now. So now I even have less risk if it goes the wrong way and hits my stop loss, and I'm already in profit with what I closed, and the rest of the trade could carry out. And I've lowered my risk on that trade as well by closing part of the trade. And you can do that at any time. So now you see the lot size open is 0.33 lots instead of 0.65 because I closed 0.32 of the initial 0.65. So this is what's left. So very simple to risk manage your trades. To adjust on the fly, I can adjust my stop loss and take profit as well from this location. All I have to do is click and drag on the chart, and I can move my take profit and stop loss. So here's my stop loss setting. Since I closed part of the trade, I could move my stop loss above the next resistance level, and I'm only risking originally what I was going to risk anyways because half the trade is closed now with profit pocketed. So I can start to adjust my risk management, and now I can be more patient with my stop loss, and I'm not risking as much as I would have because I just closed half of it in profit. And now by moving my stop loss maybe about double the distance away, I'm still only risking the same amount I was to begin with. So you can start to play around with adjusting those right on the chart. You don't even have to type it. You can just pull it based on the technical analysis of where you want your stop loss to be. And I can drag my take profit the same way. I can move it to wherever I want and let it be set at that new location. Okay. So risk management made very simple in the order window and also on the live trade to quickly adjust where I want my stop loss and take profit, and also to do partial closes. And the way that worked, if I click the I and I click close, it doesn't close the trade immediately. When I click close, it then lets me adjust how much do I want to close before I close it. Okay, and that can be based on where I got to within the technical movement as well as to how much would I want to close. Am I halfway to my take profit? Am I 2/3 to my take profit, etc.? Okay, all of that sort of thing, you should kind of have a plan for that before you place the trade. What amount do I want to risk per trade? So as I adjust the trade in the order window, I can risk the amount I want, go after the amount of profit that I want, etc. And have that in mind before I take the trade, so I'm not emotional as I set up a trade size. I'm more robotic, and I know I'm going to adjust that trade size once I get my technical set up so that I'm risking the amount I want to risk on each trade. Okay. All right, everybody, I think this is a good place to stop. I didn't see any questions pop up, but I also didn't see anyone drop out of the session while we were going, so I must have been clear and it must have been interesting enough. to stick around for the whole session. I do invite you to come to tomorrow's session if you can. It's at 11 a.m. UK time, and we'll be going over some specifics about the US election and maybe some trends that have occurred in the past around US elections and some specifics about policies that the different candidates for president, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, what their policies might mean for the greater markets, depending on who wins. So we'll go over some of those ideas tomorrow, as well as talk about the non-farm payroll and the economic calendar right along with it for what's happening to the end of this week as well. All right, everybody, thank you for joining. Good luck with your trading. Bye for now.